morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
There's a line in one of my favorite Ian Tyson songs that says, "This country was hell on women and horses, and I guess it ain't changed all that much." Well, ranch wives are special, that's for sure. And here in the 21st century, they're still dealing with the weather, the livestock, the machinery, the banks, and some of the things us guys might do. And today's Cowboy Poetry Spotlight looks at what a ranch wife from North Dakota had to put up with.
Records now became a passion. Nothing else was now much fun. Everything I had was measured. That is everything but one.
That's Rodney Nelson, and you'll hear what his long-suffering wife had to put up with this time. Baxter Black has a look at what a cowboy Thanksgiving dinner might have been like.
As a special treat, they'd have thrown a few Rocky Mountain oysters on the hot rock for hors d'oeuvres.
On the Rangeland News, why is the number of cattle going into feedlots down from last year at this time?
No really severe weather in many areas, allowing then producers to keep animals on pasture for a while longer.
On the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training Files, somebody wants to know if I think there's any possibility that a standardbred could make a ranch horse. And speaking of ranching couples, this week I'll visit with Bob and Pinky Tabor, who ride and work cattle in that short grass, bald-headed prairie country where Bob didn't think he'd ever get lost until he did.
When I finally got to a fence line, I was about, a good 90 degrees out. I was going what I thought was east, it was north. But you couldn't see it, but everything was white. You just couldn't see. And that's the only time I've ever got turned around.
And you'll hear more from Bob and Pinky after Terry Brown opens up the game.
There's just one word for a man like me who lives his life by a certain creed with a strong belief in a way of life. COWBOY. I was born in cowboy boots, got western blood flowing through my roots. I spell honor, truth, and pride. COWBOY. I wear the cowboy name and I wear it proud. Love the cowboy way. Shout it loud. It's by God's grace that I'll live and die. COWBOY. And when my time on earth is gone, you'll find one word on my tombstone, carved in lead 3 feet high. COWBOY. I wear the cowboy name and I wear it proud. Love the cowboy way and I'll shout it loud. It's by God's grace that I'll live and die. COWBOY. COWBOY.
We're going to let you eavesdrop on another visit that took place on our recent Spirit of the West cruise. The ship was on its way to New York. And after another great meal, longtime ranching couple Bob and Pinky Tabor dropped over to our stateroom for a great visit. They have been riding and working cattle stirrup to stirrup for over 50 years, and I wanted to know how it all started.
Well, my sister and her were training to be RNs at the Holy Cross in Calgary, and they had to put in a practicum up at Panoka. So anyway, they were coming home for the weekend, a particular weekend, and my sister said, "I'm bringing this girl home." She said, "I think you're going to like her," and that was the end of that. We were done. It was just an automatic thing. Really? I started dating, and she had 2 more years of training to do. So I was making as many trips to Calgary as I could, in a given week, and then we got engaged in the spring, November the 23rd. That's the day. So there we are, 50 years later. We're still a thing. Wow. Yeah.
And what were you living on the home ranch?
We're on the home ranch, yeah. I was, my brother and I bought it out from my dad, and then he bought land north of Delia on the highway, and so we had this place, and we were running a few cows, and when he died, we bought his other place from the estate, and so then we were bigger farmers for that area. And then my brother got married to a girl that was an only child, and her dad turned over all his land. He had some really good, high-powered stuff, and when we reseeded everything down our way to grass, and we went out and in my wisdom, I bought, or we did, I should say, bought 4 sections of land south of Hannah, real dry land country, and that was the year that we had drought. The next year we had grasshoppers, and the next year we had BSC. And we're paying a pretty healthy sum of...
That would be just before 2003.
Yeah. And we're paying a healthy sum of interest to this, or try to keep this thing afloat. And it was just a whisker away from losing the whole shebang, when things started to turn around. And we didn't have that place too awful long. We had it for 12 years, and then by that time we had decided that there's got to be more than shoveling something in one end of a cow and shoving out the other end, and sold the cows off to a neighbor, which was a slick deal. We just opened the gate, chased them across the fence. And
no liners.
No liners, no commission, no nothing. And then the young neighbor over where this Eastland was, he let us know that he was interested, and so we said, well, we phoned him up and put a really good, healthy price on that. But anyway, he phoned back about 10 days later and he said, well, if you want to go for it, I'm done. I'm ready.
Wow.
So we were out of cattle and out of land. Yeah. Basically, we still have the home ranch, which isn't all that big. And the neighbors, we rented out to them, and so we cowboy for food and beer.
Yeah, that's what. The first thing you said. Cowboying for food and beer.
Yeah,
and we keep busy.
Yeah. Well, Bob and Pinky talk about one of the jobs on a ranch that can cause the most friction between the couple when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Just got word that another favorite will be returning to the Kamloops Cowboy Festival in March. I'll tell you who he is, and I'll play one of his great songs after we get back to the visit with Bob and Pinky Tabor. Well, Pinky, were you involved in horses and cattle and ranching and stuff at the same time that you were, going forward with your nurse's training?
Yes, I came from a ranch down southern Alberta, and I've ridden since I was 4 years old. So we didn't agree on breeds right away. But
oh, really?
Settled on Angus and Limousin Cross.
Mm-hmm. Which was your preference, sort of?
She was raised Hereford.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, with
her
Hereford.
dad always had Hereford cows.
Yeah.
And good ones, but
it
wasn't something that I had, so but I got her converted over pretty good.
Yeah, I always figured if you can the marriage can survive being in the cattle business and everything from preg testing to repairing a uterine prolapse or whatever you got to do together, you can probably survive just about anything.
I fully agree. Yeah, and we're lucky. We we have our differences, and I'm sure everybody does when they're out in the crowd. It's a different world out there.
Yeah.
And she's only quit me once.
Only once?
Yeah,
Oh,
only once. I was mouthing off, and I kind of laid into her about something not getting a gate or whatever. I don't even remember now, but she just stuck her nose in the air and headed for the house.
Yeah.
Where in the heck are you going? She never even answered. She just left.
You only did that once.
I only did it once. But I think the biggest challenge for married couples is fencing.
Yeah.
We've had some really
That
good
was
fights.
another time she might have quit me too. But
Oh, yeah.
I was in the back of the truck throwing out fence posts, and he was complaining. So I said, "Well, I'll drive the truck." And I drove really fast, and he couldn't keep up.
The posts are 120 feet apart.
not laid down with a pounder and whatnot. Yeah, so we've had those kinds of things, but yeah, we enjoy working together. Like she's one of the group that people, they're friends of ours that we work back and forth at their ranches and stuff. She's one of the few women that go out with 5 or 6 guys to do a gather, and guys, when the call of nature comes, we just let her rip, and so it's
Good thing I'm a nurse.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back to Bob and Pinky in a few minutes. Now, the Kamloops Cowboy Festival is always happening right in the middle of calving time, and there's a long story about why we hold it in early March, and we'll tell you one day, but it took a little convincing. But even though Charlie Ewing's cows will be calving at that time, he has agreed to come back to the festival and sing some of his great songs, like this one.
He spent most of his life living at the end of the road. He's filled up his days chasing cows on horses he's rode. Where the wild chinook blows, the fescue stands tall, brand 'em in the spring, weed 'em in the fall. It's the feeling within, whistle and grin cowboy way. The saddle he's riding, an old rough-out Dale Harwood way. His horse is packing Santa Barbara Garcia spade. He's proud of his gear and the tools of his trade. He won't swap you a thing for all the money you've made. He's riding with pride, happy inside cowboy ways. Cowboy ways. As the cities close in, remember those old cowboy ways. If something's worth doing, you can do it from the back of a horse. It's the code of the West, you can't learn it by taking a course. You just keep your mouth shut and your eyes open wide. Watch the old ones at work as they rope and they ride. You ride for the brand, try to make a hand cowboy way. Now the snow's blowing hard from the north on this cold April day. He'll be riding till late, trying to save the new calves where they lay. He may curse to himself at the sting of the wind, but he loves what he does, feels good when he wins. It's the hardships that mold him, tried and true old cowboy ways. Cowboy ways. As the cities close in, remember those old cowboy ways. Cowboy ways.
Bob and Pinky Tabor dropped by our cabin for a visit during our recent Spirit of the West cruise, and they ride in a part of the West where there aren't many trees and not a lot of landmarks.
Out there, boy, you can see for miles, you know. And
that, I would get lost in that country. There's no land, like in our country, every creek bed and every rock outcropping and everything and every big hilltop you can stay. But out there, every section looks the same. How do you know where you are?
Well, I don't know. It's just I could find my way in the dark.
Really?
Yeah, literally. I clarify that a little bit. We went out one spring. We had I forget why the cows were out, but a terrific storm come up. Just blizzard. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face, and they were up in the hills. And I thought, God, I got to get them things out of there because there's baby calves and whatnot. And so I had a front wheel assist tractor, and I jumped on that, and away I go. And I know my place like the back of my hand. It just wasn't a problem. And all of a sudden, the tractor was going down this steep bank, and it shot up the other side, and I hit the throttle, and we made it up. Otherwise, and I was going, when I finally got to a fence line, I was about, a good 90 degrees out. I was going, what I thought was east was north. Oh. But you couldn't see it, but everything was white. You just couldn't see. And that's the only time I've ever got turned around.
I've had that feeling a lot, and it really shakes you when you realize
you
just came back to the creek that you left 40 minutes ago, thinking you're going totally away from it.
So I just followed the fence line around to get back to the gate where these cows were supposed to be, and I should have just left them alone. They were hunkered down in a coulee with some bush and stuff, and they were happy as could pigs, so that was I've never done it on a horse. I have never gone out in a storm like that because although we've ridden in the dark, it's pitch black, and they find their way home.
Oh, they just seem to have some kind of radar.
That radar out there.
And if they've been by a place once, even several years ago, they'll remember it.
Oh, for sure.
It's just uncanny how they do that. And I've had my horse take me home when I had no idea what way to go many times.
Yeah. And we've done riding in the foothills where her brother works down there, and mind you, this old horse I had at that time, he knew the country. He'd worked there for 2 or 3 years, and you couldn't trick him. He knew where the gates were. I just was riding, and I was sitting there waiting for him to get to one because I didn't exactly know how to. So he'd know the ropes, and he'd get you back home.
We'll get back to this fine ranching couple in just a little while. Baxter Black talks about what a real cowboy Thanksgiving dinner might be like, and we'll pull out the first of many cowboy Christmas songs you'll hear between now and the big day. And then it's the Rangeland News when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, and I'll be right back with a little peek at the first Cowboy Thanksgiving. Well, friends, thanks for listening. It'll be no surprise that I've published a beautiful new hardback book called A Commotion in Rhyme. It fits in the bunkhouse, the outhouse, the bookstore, the library, or the cookbook. Unfortunately, it won't fit in a cupcake. Buy 2, get 1 free. A commotion? Oh. Call 800-654-2550 or BaxterBlack.com. Come to think of it, it might fit in a Caesar salad. In November 1621, a Thursday I believe, the Pilgrims were fixing to set down to a meager meal of fish sticks and boiled beets when out of the woods marched a jovial band of Indians packing a bushel of roasting ears and 2 wild turkeys. Thursday, Thanksgiving, as we know it today, was born. But what if those generous Indians had chosen to take their bounty to the wild game feed at the VFW instead? And in their place, the Pilgrims were met by a crew of cowboys on their day off. Soon as everybody was tuned up and visiting like used car salesmen, preparations would have been made for chuck. They'd have barbecued a couple Spanish goats, some buzzard jerky, a side of javelina, and a bucket of quail, not to mention a jackrabbit they'd run over on the way into camp. As a special treat, they'd have thrown a few Rocky Mountain oysters on the hot rock for hors d'oeuvres. I can just see the young, single, upwardly mobile Pilgrim girls giggling and gnawing on a piece of javelina haunch. Toasts would have been made to all the greats: Christopher Columbus, John Smith, John Alden, Casey Tibbs, James Fenimore Cooper, John Elway, Bob Wills, Sir Walter Raleigh, Jerry Palin, Pocahontas, and Francis Scott Key. And no cowboy gathering to be complete without a fiddle. The cowboys might have taught them the two-step and the cotton-eyed Joe, and the Pilgrims would have reciprocated with the minuet and turkey in the straw. And no doubt Paul Rawhide Revere would have snuck Priscilla over to Sooner Rock, which is 200 yards up the beach from Plymouth Rock and was discovered by two Okies who stowed away on the Mayflower and jumped ship early, claiming the continent for Pawhuska. Well, by dawn, they'd all be saying goodbye and promising to meet again next year. Well, if that scenario had occurred, Thanksgiving would be different today. It would be more like a combination of New Year's Eve and Custer's Last Stand. Every November, we'd be sitting down to the table, bristling with brisket and beans. The centerpiece would be the traditional cow skull, and afterwards, everybody would have a piece of armadillo mince pie. However, the turkey would not have been lost completely. It would have become the symbol for another national celebration which stops the country in its tracks and gives us pause to think. That's right, friends. Election Day. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan. Thanks for listening.
Looking for an ideal Christmas gift or stocking stuffer? How about a weekend pass to the 23rd Annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival, March 14th to 17th, 2019. Just about the finest lineup of talent we've ever had. Michael Fleming.
On the back roads of Utah near the San Rafael, an old rough stock rider strides to the corral.
Gene Prescott.
Then he'd swing down from the saddle, and he'd take me in his arms.
Tim Huss.
The band's tuning up, and they're stocking the bar. Ranchers are coming from near and far.
Special guest Lewis the Big Rig McIver, and so many more. The BC Cowboy Hall of Fame inductions, dinner shows, daytime entertainment, a spectacular art and gear show, workshops on everything from songwriting to saddle making. The best place to get all the information is bcchs.com. And to order tickets, call 1-888-763-2221. Well, I pulled out a couple of Western Christmas songs today, and just ahead of the Rangeland News, here's one from Ed Pinky Coot.
Memories of a prairie Christmas, where the air is crisp and clean. Jack Frost dancing across the window. It's a cozy winter scene. Tin star hanging on our little tree. I smell Grandma's mincemeat pie. Later on I'll go out skating beneath the starry velvet skies. Children laughing everywhere, making angels in the snow, feeling magic in the air with the prairie Christmas glow. Warm and cozy in the sleigh, bells for Christmas Eve rang clear. Memories become more treasured with the passing of each year. Children laughing everywhere, making angels in the snow, feeling magic in the air with the prairie Christmas glow. And I don't know how they did it,
making Christmas sweet and bright. Memories of a prairie Christmas shining in my heart tonight. Memories of a prairie Christmas shining in my heart tonight.
Now the news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
At the top of page 1, there still seems to be a lot of factors weighing on the price of everything from calves to yearlings, bred heifers, and bred cows. The number of cattle not going into feedlots late in the fall or early in the winter is raising some questions. And for some answers, as always, here's Gary Crawford.
Many cattle market analysts were expecting USDA's Wednesday cattle on feed report to show placements in feedlots during October to be slightly less than October a year ago, but placements actually were down quite a bit, 6% down at 2.25 million head.
This will probably be somewhat bullish report.
USDA livestock analyst Shale Shagam says there could have been several factors behind the low feedlot placements. First, no really severe weather in many areas, allowing then producers to keep animals on pasture for a while longer. Second, economics. Feedlots have suffered a several-month-long string of negative returns,
which could have somewhat dampened their appetite for bringing in cattle.
Now, feeder calf prices have been running less than a year ago. Shagam says feedlots may not want to bid those prices up right now,
given the fact they have a fair number of animals still in the feedlots, and the fact that their returns, though they have improved during October, were still largely negative.
Feedlot inventories November 1st, 11.7 million head, up 3% from a year earlier. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
Well, a record number of school kids attended the Canadian Western Agribition last month, and organizers say that it is the key to a successful future for both the show and the agricultural sector. Nearly 10,000 students were pre-registered through the annual event's education program, and the 10,000 figure doesn't even include all the kids who came to the show with their families. The high-selling animal at the event was a Hereford bull consigned by Harvey Ranching from Olds, Alberta. The calf, Harvey OVHF Empower ET5J, sold for $37,000 to Torchview Cattle Company of White Fox, Saskatchewan, and the Empower Syndicate. The 2-year-old bison bulls sold for $17,000 each, as did a gelding in the ranch horse sale. The highest price in the commercial cattle sale was $3,600 for each of the 5 Grand Champion pen of Red Angus Simmental bred heifers, and the high-selling sheep was a $1,300 Suffolk ewe that was also named the Supreme Champion. Well, Cargill has developed a robotic cattle driver aimed, they say, at improving animal welfare and employee safety. The robots are designed to move cattle from pens to the processing area. The company spent 2 years developing the prototype with input from experts like Dr. Temple Grandin. Testing was done at 2 of Cargill's plants and may be implemented at U.S. and Canadian plants. Longtime dealer Deer Mart in Red Deer, Alberta, is being sold to the Calgary-based company Service for an undisclosed amount. John and Jack Donald and Abe Dirksen have owned Deer Mart since 1982, and John Deere dealerships have been in that area since 1921. There is a bred cow and bred heifer sale at the Kamloops yards of the BC Livestock Co-op on the 11th of December, along with a regular sale and another regular sale December the 18th, and I think that'll be the last one before the holidays. You can get all that information and see the sales live at bclivestock.bc.ca. Meanwhile, at the Innisfail Auction Market, they are booking bred heifers and bred cows for upcoming special sales, and of course regular sales every Wednesday. Get all the details at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. And we're down to the final item. And 2 of our grandsons play hockey in the Rep League last weekend. We were watching Reed playing goal for the West Bank Bruins midget rep team, and they were playing short-handed most of the game, killing penalties. And that took me back to my playing days. And we were killing a penalty. I got the puck, took it right down the ice to the other team's blue line, and I tried to make a move on the defender, and the defender took it right off my stick and went in and scored on our goalie. And when I got to the bench, the coach sure gave me heck. "Didn't you hear me? I was yelling, 'Get it deep,'" he said. "Oh, heck," I said. "I thought you said, 'You better deke.'" My hearing just about as bad then as it is now. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming right up on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, a listener has acquired a standard-bred gelding just off the track and wonders if there's any hope of making a ranch horse out of him. Well, we had one, and I'll tell you how it went when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Making a ranch horse out of a standard-bred off the track. Well, I tried that, and you'll hear how it turned out on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, coming up after a nice one from Dave Munzik.
Morning, lazy son of the morning, gets me up and sends me on my way. Coffee up at the old corral, saddle up and hit the trail. Where I'll end up, I can't tell this morning. Daytime, come alive in the daytime, roaming through the country in the sky. Lunching up there at Angeline, climbing way up above the trees. That's the place I'm feeling free in the daytime. 'Cause I've been up to paradise at least one time in my life, and I found out what it's like to be sitting tall and riding high, way up where the angels fly in paradise, the open sky and me. There's sure a song in the evening. You can hear it as the shadows start to fall. Campfire, cracking smoke, big old stars getting pretty close. An open sky coming down so low in the evening. 'Cause I've been up to paradise at least one time in my life, and I found out just what it's like to be sitting tall and riding high, way up where the angels fly, paradise, the open sky and me. Paradise, the open sky and me.
So what are you doing from August 29th to September 13th, 2019? Well, Billy and I will be hosting our 18th annual Spirit of the West cruise, and here's where we'll be going. We'll fly to Dublin, Ireland. We'll be visiting an Irish thoroughbred breeding farm. We'll be hosted by the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation, and then we'll sail to some historic and beautiful places including Cork, Belfast, then Glasgow and Inverness, Scotland. And we might even get pictures of Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. And we'll have stops in Paris and London. Now, this is something we've always wanted to do, and we'd love to have you join us. Get all the information at 1-800-530-0131. And check our Spirit of the West cruise page at hugh-mclennan.com and our cruise Facebook page. And I must remind you that our second cruise reunion is going to happen April the 25th from 5 to 8:30 p.m. at the Westerner in Red Deer, and that's just the night before the main event gets started in Red Deer. We'll have music from the Western Spirit and the Cruisin' Cowboy Band, lots of videos and pictures of past cruises, and a great chance to share all our memories with the folks who have joined us over the last 17 years. And you can RSVP at this number, 1-800-530-0131.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
You know, Kris Kringle and Albertans have a lot in common. The work never stops. And here's another thing we have in common. Urban Tack and Western Wear. That's right, even Santa knows where to go to keep warm way up north. Boots, gloves, North Face jackets, toasty and durable for December weather. Sure, he still wears the bright red suit, guided by Rudolph's bright red nose, but underneath it's all Urbans. Off exit 305 on Highway 2 by Crossfield, open 7 days a week, or shop online at urbans.ca.
Don't just wear it, live it. Urban Tack and Western Wear.
The standard bred as a cow horse. Well, some folks I get to ride with have had good ranch horses that have actually had their start on the racetrack. It's pretty common knowledge that some thoroughbreds who don't quite have the speed to stay in race competition can, with the right approach, make pretty good ranch horses. But what about standard breds? They don't look or move like you expect a ranch horse to. The pacers can wear out the pockets of your wranglers, and they usually don't have any idea about a neck rein, and some of them don't understand whoa. But they usually have great stamina and endurance, and by the time they've been through the experience of starting gates, sulkies, PA systems, and crowd noise, they generally are pretty tolerant of things that spook some green horses. Most of them are good-natured, and they have a lot of heart. Now, Billy bought one at the co-op horse sale a few years ago. I wasn't there, and, he had some real potential as a ranch horse. It didn't take too long to get a good stop on him, and riding him in the deep snow really helped him learn how to lope rather than do that 30-mile-an-hour pace. And I really wondered how he'd be stepping over the windfalls and negotiating his way through the heavy bush. Well, one time I was out doing some checking for the neighbors, and I found a set of tracks in the snow leading off into the heavy timber where a snorty old cow had gone off to have her calf. Same place she'd gone the last 2 or 3 years. It was a little early, but I put this young standard bred on the trail. And he picked his way through the bush and the timber and over the windfalls and rocks. And there was about 16 inches of snow on the ground, but we followed those tracks deeper and deeper into the bush. And I was really pleased with how he handled it. By the way, after about an hour, I was able to see that we were actually following a set of moose tracks. And for urban saddles and Western wear, that's the Horse Training File. Our horses sure enjoy that daily feeding of Hoffman's horse ration, and I know it keeps them looking good and feeling good. You can find out all about it at hoffmanshorseration.com. Looking for an ideal Christmas gift or stocking stuffer? How about a weekend pass to the 23rd Annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival, March 14th to 17th, 2019. Just about the finest lineup of talent we've ever had. Michael Fleming.
On the back roads of Utah near the San Rafael, an old rough stock rider strides to the corral.
Gene Prescott.
Then he'd swing down from the saddle, and he'd take me in his arms.
Tim Huss.
The band's tuning up, and they're stocking the bar. Ranchers are coming from near and far.
Special guest, Lewis the Big Rig McIver, and so many more. The BC Cowboy Hall of Fame inductions, dinner shows, daytime entertainment, a spectacular art and gear show, workshops on everything from songwriting to saddle making. The best place to get all the information is bcchs.com. And to order tickets, call 1-888-763-2221. And now back to that great visit with Bob and Pinky Tabor, and we got to talking about doctoring cattle in the open.
The tricky part of that country, too, like I don't know how many times we've had to doctor a cow or
a yearling or anything out there, there's usually a tree I can get them dallied up to and snubbed up to pretty tight. But out there, there's, it's your horse.
Your horse and yourself. And you kind of, if you can soft loop them and not get them spooked up, and you can just circle around them and then just tighten up and down they go, and you run back and tail between up around their flank and tie them up. This young fellow that runs our place now, he's really slick at that. I go out to, and I'm more in the way than because you don't need to heel him or stretch him. He can get it done, and he quiet sneaks him and just throws a hula hand out there and bang, they're in and down.
Yeah.
And that's an art. That's not something I learned to do. So.
Yeah, I just admire these young guys so much. And, they talk about this way of life kind of fading away, but I still see an awful lot of good young couples now that are both, so handy, way handier than we were at that age, and they're getting better all the time.
Yeah.
And they take a lot of pride in how they do it.
Mm-hmm. This fellow we get to as our farrier, he's a young fellow, he'd be 40s, I guess, and he's got 2 kids. The one's 9 and the other one's 5, something like that. And this 9-year-old has already run 2 saddles. Roping.
Really?
Yeah. Dummy roping the first one when he was just, I think he was 5 or 6 when he won the first one, but he's won the second one. And now you should see him team rope. Oh, man, that kid, he was born with a rope in his hand.
Oh, man.
And I told this guy, Matt, I said, you just ruined that kid,
That's all he's going to want to do
now. But, good hands, good kids. Yeah. And the young fellow that's on our place, he's got 2 boys again. And the older boy has just started grade 1 this year. Grade 1 or kindergarten?
Kindergarten, just kindergarten.
And we were going out one day to gather bulls and move them, spread them, put them out the different, and they run Red Angus and Charolais bulls. And so his grandpa was there, and his dad, and myself, and her, Pink. So, excuse me, we're going along, and we get to the gate in the pen where these bulls were in the field, and we're sitting there, and Casey was shutting the gate, and Rexton says, "Okay, Bobby," he says, "let's go get them." He says, "You take the black ones, Grandpa, you take them white ones, and I'll get the red ones. Dad, you just follow along." And there was no black bulls out there, but they were all dark.
Yeah.
And so he's on, what do you call his horse?
I can't even remember.
But anyway, he says, "Come on, Clyde, let's get going." And away we go. It's good fun.
There is so much good music about Christmas in the West that there's just not time to play it all. But we're sampling some of it this week. Here's Sid Masters and the Swing Riders.
I'm riding home for Christmas. The trail is white with snow. Gazing at the northern star that leads the way back home. The dogies are a-moving real slow. Can't wait to get there and rest near the fire's glow. Trail is white with snow. Gazing at the northern star that leads the way back home. The dogies are a-moving real slow. Can't wait to get there and rest near the fire's glow.
Coming up, our classic Song of the West and the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Time for our classic Song of the West. And, you know, one of Bob Nolan's most lyrically beautiful songs is Lord, You Made the Cowboy Happy. It was one of his earliest compositions, registered for copyright October 9th, 1937. And it was recorded for Columbia on December 16th, 1937, but they, for some reason, never released it. It's been done on the Sons of the Pioneers radio show, and they did record it for Victor in 1962. There's no sheet music found for the song. First recorded in 1937, and many times since then, this is the latest version from Riders in the Sky.
I met a cowboy on the trail just the other day. I still can hear his howdy boy as he up and rode away. He turned in the saddle, he raised his hand, this carefree sort of a lad. His smile was sent from heaven above, and heaven made him glad. The white clouds sailed before the wind, the grass bows to the touch of him. The hills are where they've always been. Lord, you made the cowboy happy. The plains are big and grand as you. The sun is always shining through. My heart is always smiling too. Lord, you made the cowboy happy. I know that someday, somewhere, this trail must surely end. I know that when I get there, this message I will send. You gave this happy heart to me, these eyes, that beauty I might see. Then like the wind you set me free. Lord, you made the cowboy happy. I know that someday, somewhere, this trail must surely end. I know that when I get there, this message I will send. You gave this happy heart to me, these eyes, that beauty I might see. Then like the wind you set me free. Lord, you made the cowboy happy. Lord, you set the cowboy free.
Well, Rodney Nelson always has a mischievous gleam and twinkle in his eyes, and I don't doubt that most of what he writes about is pretty close to the truth. Here he is in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight with the elevator scale.
Now don't blame me, the blame should fall on the guilty, I'd insist. And the one who caused this grief for me was that ag economist. He claimed my style was obsolete and that mode no longer pays. If I wish to stay in business, I must yield to modern ways. I must keep records every day despite the mental strain, must calculate my feed costs, know my critter's rate of gain. Well, the figures I collected, they could drive sane men berserk. Took the pleasure out of ranching and it doubled all my work. I measured something every day like what every critter ate. Beauty wouldn't save a brood cow if her EPDs weren't great. Then we frame-sized all the chickens and we speed-bred all the cats. and to maximize production, kept blue heeler biting stats. Records now became a passion. Nothing else was now much fun. Everything I had was measured. That is everything but one. I didn't want to do it. What else am I to say? I started up my pickup truck and filled it up with hay. I never had a clue that day that what I did was wrong when I stopped and asked the missus if she'd like to ride along. She inquired of my intentions. All right, I lied that day. I'm going to New Salem just to weigh this load of hay. Well, I checked the readout on the scale as I drove up with my bride. Then I told her, sweet as sugar, that she'd have to step outside. She hesitated not a bit. She even acted glad. It was when I checked the scale again that she knew that she'd been had. Have you ever known the fury of 100 rabid dogs, or been in a metal building where they're castrating hogs? Oh, you should have heard the screaming and you should have heard her wail the day I weighed the missus on the elevator scale.
All right. Thank you so much for making the ride, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. And as always, thanks to our great support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan. And you know, if you're looking for tractor parts, any make, any year, see Mark's page, bctractorparts.com. And remember to subscribe to Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. You just go to cowboycountrymagazine.com or call them at 1-800-943-7336. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.